Hey Facebook family. I'm writing an article, looking for suggestions. What do you think? Environmental sustainability and mental health. We live in a highly interconnected biosphere. When one component is out of balance, the entire system is affected and naturally undergoes radical transformation in order to equalize whatever part has strayed from symbiosis. Nature is a great balancing machine which cannot be stopped. The wisest approach is to be careful and mindful of our impact so we have a greater chance of sustaining symbiosis. We have no idea the irreversible catastrophes we could cause, because we have no reference point. No single species or force of nature has had the range of impact that we have evolved to attain as humans, except for maybe asteroids or floods. Even previous eras of humanity did not have the destructive capacity that we now carry. For some reason, the scales of influence have tipped heavily towards our species, and with that power comes the greatest responsibility. This tightrope balance we are navigating as a species is bound to impact the way we think, feel, and overall, the level of peace and fulfillment we are able to experience. So much of our joy as humans involves nurturing our children towards a bright future. How can we experience that joy without cognitive dissonance or delusion if the planet is in crosshairs that we alone have created? No one else to blame. Our collective self-absorption, coupled with commercial opportunism, has nearly sunk this ship. We can't entirely blame commerce, for our dollar sculpts that world based on our values. Not to say we weren't hypnotized into overconsumption, but I still think the blame is multifaceted. The truth is, we can't ignore this. And even if we can fake the feeling, and buy ourselves a few more decades of ignoring the truth, we are creating a false reality that eventually will dissolve and cave in, to reveal the actual state of the world. Humans are being terribly irresponsible and have hinged most systems on profit-based principles that have abandoned the concepts and practices of true symbiosis with the earth. Our subconscious mind directly informs our emotions. We are all deeply subconsciously aware that we are living in a way that is not in balance with nature. This can only go on for so long. Even just 100 years ago, the vast majority of people were connected to the land. Personal vegetable gardening and preserving was a common skill. The Industrial Revolution obviously brought us the modern embodied world, but like Icarus flew too close to the sun, it seems we too as the human race have become blinded to the gravity of unrestricted growth. This modern era has pulled far too many people away from the natural world and into skyscrapers and basement apartments, essentially cutting a massive percentage of humanity off from Mother Nature. This isolation, in concert with the cognitive dissonance inherent in a society that sacrifices the future for today's instant gratification, is actually a breeding ground for mental illness and depression. It's one thing to live in a dwelling or a city that has paved the natural world in concrete, but the elephant in the room is our complete abandonment of moderation. Now, of course, this was a product of the excitement of the industrial and technological revolutions, so there is some innocence here, but the fact remains, we have been primarily focused on materialistic pursuits and we have collectively hit a dead end. The new generations aren't convinced of a golden future that was promised with a college or university degree for past generations, simply because they've watched it fail from the sidelines. It is plain to see that the certainty of previous generations was completely and utterly false, and this has created a very somber atmosphere in our collective reality today. These realities are very damaging to the human psyche because we were previously convinced that we had it together and that modern human endeavors were cutting edge and basically genius on every level. To face the bitter truth that the future has been horrendously compromised and miscalculated will weigh on the minds of those who look, and it will permeate the subconscious reality of those who disconnect from this truth. Therefore, a new renaissance is taking place. Young people only want to work in ways that make a difference. The bottom dollar no longer matters. It's now about morally sanctioned impact, even inspiration. This new renaissance is attempting to take the chariot of wastefulness that was created, celebrate its priceless gifts such as the smartphone and global infrastructure, and steer this wild carriage into greener pastures, literally. The main connection between environmental responsibility and mental health is, when we commit to sustainability, we awaken the hero within, once again. The Industrial Revolution was still a heroic journey, but it was only to save the self. This chapter is to save the Earth, and it is well underway. When we reconnect to purpose and to the natural elements, our mental health receives profound restoration. After all, we are all equally part of this biosphere, so doesn't it make sense that all well-being is interdependent?